Welcome back to another episode of Donia Sports. We are going to do a college football recap of the 2025 season and a bunch of transfer portal latest of our early predictions of the 2026 season pretty much, and our thoughts about how Indiana pretty much won the Natty and had one of the greatest seasons you could say, and that's up there with those top tier teams if you had to say. Ty, what was your if you had to say a word to describe this season, what would it be?
I would just say unpredictable, honestly.
Unpredictable.
Yeah, just a lot of chaos around everywhere, especially with a lot of these guys getting paid like professional athletes
Mm-hmm.
on the places that you wouldn't say are big name schools and just producing big numbers, especially Indiana. Just really unpredictable. I did not see that coming out all this year.
I think the Indiana story was amazing. I mean, they had a bunch of no names on that defense, a bunch of guys from James Madison. And you got Fernando. I mean, this guy was unbelievable. Came from Cal, started for 2 years and all that kind of stuff. But it's kind of unpredictable how it was.
Mhm.
If I have to say. And then if I have to say, it's the biggest concern is heading the next year is their quarterback play. Is Josh Hoover going to have the same thing as Fernando? You think, or no? Or do you think they have a giant step back?
I feel like it's going to be really hard to kind of live up to what Fernando Mendoza just did. Coming out of Cal and winning a Heisman and putting up the numbers that he did, it's kind of hard to take credit away from him. So anyone can do it, but I don't know if he's going to live up to that number one year that Indiana
So
just had. So we'll
I
see.
mean, what Indiana had was unbelievable. 16-0. I know their schedule wasn't the greatest. I mean, you look at their in-season schedule. Their hardest team was probably Oregon, if anything, and then you got Penn State with that tight game. And other than that, it was just an easy stretch. Got to say with that. Um, my biggest thing is I think it's not. They're not going to be the same team last year. Of course, they're losing so many players. That was such a team of seniors, players that got redshirt and all that, and a bunch of guys from James Madison. A lot of Kirk Cincinnati guys, if anything. Um, I don't think they go back to back. There's no way you go back to back. It's one of the hardest things in college football, especially in this era. I mean, it was already hard enough to go 16-0 and how they did it because everyone thought, even Stark from Texas said there's no way a team goes 16-0 now in this new college football era. And guess what? They did it in 2 seasons of the 12-man season, pretty much. And um, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to do that same replica, if anything. And let's talk about the runner up. Miami came down the wire. Carson Beck threw it up. Looked like Sid from Ice Age for the interception. Do you think Miami bounces back from this? If you have to say.
Yeah, I do think so. The reason is because the season that they oh my gosh, dude, I'm stuttering like crazy. The season that they just had was kind of up and down throughout the year. They started off really hot, then had a little stretch of a couple bad games after that Louisville. I believe that Louisville loss, and Carson Beck bounced back from that and was able to kind of bring them to a hot stretch into the playoffs. And I'm not taking anything away from Carson Beck, but that defense too was just phenomenal. Um, so yeah, I do think they'll bounce back, especially with Mensa coming in from Duke,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll bring some of his guys in. I saw that they just got their wide receiver one, who has had like 2,000 yards the past 2 seasons, so they should have a good connection already started with that. And Malachi Tony, maybe one of the best wide receivers returning into next year, could be the best in the country if Jeremiah Smith didn't exist. But yeah, I do think they'll bounce back and they'll be back in the playoffs, probably an ACC title next year too.
Hopefully, we'll see. I mean, I think that team is really good. They bring back Mark Fletcher too at the running back. I mean, he was going to go in this draft supposedly, and now he's coming back for another year with Malachi Tony. I don't know how that defense is going to lose a lot of key players. I got to see, especially those two edge rushers they have, and Bain and their other guy. I forgot number 3 or number 0. I forgot his name.
Yeah,
The other edge rusher.
too.
Yeah, but both of them were great. Both had double-digit sacks this year. It's going to be really tough to have that same replica of anything. I think the offense will honestly be better because I think if Darren's dual threat ability will give you that Cam Ward ability again. Because I think if Cam Ward was on this team last year, they were going 16-0 and Natty easily. That's my thing about it.
Yeah, it's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous at all.
Um, Now heading into this, do you with now the Big Ten running college football pretty much now? Um, do you think they're going to own it for a little more while? Because I mean they have won the title in 23, 24, and then 25, pretty much. Do you think this is a replica of the Big Ten owning college football, or is this going to be changing up to next season? You think?
I don't want to take anything away from the Big Ten, but I feel like the SEC just beats each other up during the regular season, and there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
injuries going into the playoffs. But yeah, the Big Ten has been just running college football for the past 3 years. I will completely admit that, and I think it could continue, especially with how dominant these coaches are in that conference. There's multiple teams that I could see like having great seasons next year, including, of course, Indiana, obviously Ohio State. But you also have like sleeper teams like Oregon, who could have a Heisman candidate themselves with Dante Moore
Mm-hmm.
returning. So I wouldn't be surprised if Oregon's also up there for a contention for a national championship. I do think it could continue to translate into next season, but
Mm-hmm.
right now I think it's too early to tell, especially with kind of the whole. I mean, the transfer portal is already close, but we'll
It's
have to
close
see like
pretty much now.
what the spring games look like and
Yeah.
how teams are going into next season.
Definitely, we got to see how that goes, and a lot of changes can happen. I mean, players can leave no matter what. I don't unless they change that rule. I think they changed that rule. You can't leave during spring season anymore. I think that's the thing. I think now, and you don't even have to have a spring game anymore. People say like you don't even have to. It's not even mandatory, or you can't. You don't have to broadcast it anymore. So it's like it's a whole weird stitch. If anything, they got to fix the calendar, of course. Another thing we got to talk about is how do you feel about the new college football format of like it's the top four teams get the bid. Like it's like the Power Four conferences get the bid automatic now. So like James Madison and Tulane won't happen again. So they'll make one of those teams will make it, but the Power Four are guaranteed. Like so, you got SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and Big 12 are all guaranteed to be in. So Duke would have made the college football playoffs this year as a 12 seed. So how do you think that's going to work with now guaranteed Power Four teams now?
A lot of people complained about having JMU in and also Tulane, which I completely agree. You got to give these teams who are like, let's say Notre Dame, obviously, Vanderbilt could have been in it, Texas should have been in it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you're taking away a lot from those accomplishments, especially towards the end of the season for a lot of these teams, away from teams that are kind of weaker in competition. And the thing is, you got to start winning games to be able to kind of say you're dominant in a conference, and then be able to join one of the more prestige conferences to be able to compete. I feel like that's how it should be, and I completely agree with kind of the new format right now. But college football right now, I'd say the last 3 and the next 5 years is just a complete mess right now. Trying to get the college football playoff format figured out, trying to get the NIL figured out, just trying to get kind of everyone back into a groove of like peak college football that we really saw towards the middle to late 2010s. But we'll have to see how that kind of goes next
I
year.
think I think the NIL and the 12 format, 12 team playoffs kind of screwed up the timeline and everything. I think if they should have got the timeline correctly, I think you should have had the 12 team playoffs when the second the playoffs started with the four. In my opinion, I think if you want to keep it up to speed with the NIL and everything with that situation, I think we should have done. I know the four was phenomenal, the top four teams. I think you should have done top eight at the time, transition to a 12. That's my thoughts about that because they're so in this type format pretty much of how the calendar is. If they should have been prepared perfectly because you look at March Madness and college basketball, they got a format settled. The second the day of the national championship is done or the championship for March Madness, the portal's open. The portal is right there open and the
Yeah.
timing is perfect like that. That's what they need to fix. They need to figure out what's going on with college football in their situation. Those should fix it, but I am tired of these miscues of like NIL rules and everything. Players can leave no matter what. It's in the you can back out of a contract, but then like you sign the contract already. Like the whole Desmond Williams situation, how like he entered the transfer portal when he just signed a big contract and he's going back to Washington again. It's just a whole mess. And then the Darren thing, they're trying to sue. Duke is trying to sue Darren, but Darren won the case, I think. But like, it's a whole mess right now with that.
That with the fact that Ole Miss lost their head coach because he had to get into kind of discussions with LSU for a contract to be able to kind of bring these guys in. And the one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I would say for the college football playoff, and I'm obviously not going to be surprised they do it because I said the next 5 years are going to be a total mess, is giving the first four teams a home playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that because, when you come into college football, you kind of ride off the tails of your fans, but you also ride off the fact that you're a hot team. And we saw that a lot. We saw that the past 2 years. I think the only team who was on a bye that didn't win or that did win was Indiana against Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
But the other games, I think they're 1-7 in that aspect, which is kind of ridiculous because these teams are not going to be used to kind of how am I going to word this? They're not going to be in the groove of how a playoff game should be compared to the other
Mm-hmm.
teams that just won a playoff game.
Definitely, it's a whole different type of format. If I got to say, because like it's what is the 1-7 pretty much in Indiana being the only team. I think you need a home playoff win. I think one of these analysts said like the first two rounds should be home playoff games, and then the New York
Mhm.
Six Bowls are the actual New Year's Six Bowls. You got the Rose Bowl, you got the Fiesta Bowl. Like it's not the same bowls over for the next two rounds. Like every makes New Year's Six like bowls not like really that important anymore because everyone gets that bowl chance. I think the Final Four is the deserving New Year's Six bowls, pretty much of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
The one thing I think it's going to be very interesting is I definitely think with Oregon getting Dante Moore back next year, after the blizz of losing to Indiana, I definitely think they'll bounce back. They're getting Evan Stewart back. They have Dakota Moore. The defense is still going to stay. They got Coy Pretree on the defense they just added. And they just got did they get no, they did not get him. Never mind. Jordan Stevens went to LSU. I am wrong with that. I thought he was going to go to Oregon, but he was very close going to Oregon. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting how Oregon's going to be next year. Same with Michigan. Same with Ohio State. But let's go to the Big 12. Let's talk about the team has the easiest schedule that went to the playoffs. Texas Tech. Do you think they run it back again, back-to-back years, with the easiest schedule they have?
Honestly, yeah, probably. Are they bringing a lot? They're losing a lot of guys. I think CJ
On defense. The whole defense
Rodriguez.
is
Yeah.
yeah. The defense is different. The offense, getting Brandon Sosby or Snosby, I don't know how to say his name. He's going to be pretty good, I got to say. From Cincinnati, from Denton, Texas. And plus, his girlfriend is at Tech, so it made sense for that situation. I think another team is going to be very interesting is my Baylor Bears. I think my Baylor Bears are going to be a decent team, depending on DJ Lagway, because DJ Lagway played in the SEC. Okay, we forget his freshman year he was phenomenal. His second year he digressed so bad. Now he's going to Big 12 football that has no defense, so he should be really good. If anything, he should be perfect. If he struggles, then he's not an NFL quarterback. If I got to say that, pretty much, because this is the hottest name that Baylor's ever got coming out of pretty much any program we have ever got. I mean, like recruiting wise and all that since RG3, I have to say. It's been a minute since we had a top tier quarterback. Don't get me wrong, Sawyer was phenomenal. I love Sawyer to death, but we just couldn't get that step last year with the team, and the defense kind of sold the teams, and they couldn't find that happy format of like the great game by offense, a great game by defense. It was never even out, pretty much. Both sides just choked both times at the same time, pretty much, or they were on and off. And I gotta say, a sneaky team is going to be Oklahoma State. I think they're going to be sneaky next year.
What was their record this year? I think they're like 1-11.
They had the worst record, but they're getting the whole mean green team. It's the mean orange over there, Oklahoma State mean orange. So it's the whole North Texas team over there. So we forget that North Texas team only lost 2 games last year, if I'm correct, to Tulane. And their other game, I forgot, it was UCF, or University of South Florida. That's who they lost to. Burn Brown dropped 63 points on their head. And speaking of Burn Brown and Auburn, do you think Auburn's going to be good next year? Pretty much running the whole team, same exact team, heading into the next season?
Auburn?
Yeah, they're bringing back
You said Auburn?
everyone, but they're bringing back. Yeah, Auburn's bringing everyone from University of South Florida over there. So that whole team is them. They lost everyone though. The whole team is losing.
We'll have to see. I agree. But going back to your Oklahoma State, I wanted to mention this. They got that Caleb Hawkins dude. Um, he is a stud. He had
Mm.
1,400 yards and 25 rushing touchdowns. That could be a Heisman-looking dude right now. But
And
going
same
to
with Drew.
Auburn,
Same with Drew.
you know, I don't think they'll be that good. I mean,
They did lose a lot of people. I gotta say they
yeah.
lost. What's going on, Bama? Who's going to be the quarterback for y'all? Is it going to be Keelan or is it going to be Austin Mack? You think?
It's kind of hard, dude.
I know. So it's very early. I know it's very early.
honestly, Keelan.
Mhm.
I don't know because you had that situation like the Ty Simpson where Austin Mack stayed like loyal to the program, didn't transfer anything.
Stayed loyal to
And
Caleb. Him and Caleb have
yeah,
been together since Washington.
but the other thing is, you have a guy who is the number 2 quarterback, number 2 ranked player in the class of 2025, who came in and if he doesn't start this year, won't see really any playing time till his junior year, which a lot of guys, in college football or in their junior year looking to be either a first round pick or possibly a Heisman candidate, win a national championship. And when you don't have experience, you're kind of basically throwing money away, but you're also getting money coming in from the NIL. So I feel like you kind of look at that aspect to where these guys aren't losing that much money. Keelan's probably getting paid a ton of money. So, he could be like, yeah, I'll sit back another year, junior year, I'll start senior year, I'll start again. But right now, if I were to say, it would be Austin Mack to be the starter, and Keelan
Mm.
would sit another year.
I gotcha. Okay. We'll definitely see how that situation goes.
Yeah.
So, with heading to next season, what is your underrated team that's going to come out of nowhere, like our Indiana team, if you say, like, because we always have an Indiana team, quote unquote, since those past years, or like the Boise State team, that's a 12-man playoffs. So, who's going to be that surprising team, or that team that has the high expectations to like make that crazy run and make the playoffs, or get one and done, like Tech? You to say
Can I say like a top 5 team? Like, can I
top
say a
five.
team that I think
Yeah,
could win a national championship? They were top 5 last year, but going into next year, I think they could win the national championship.
yeah. We go to top five.
Yeah, I'm
Top
gonna have to
five.
say Oregon, honestly.
Okay.
The reason is because you have these high expectations. Dante Moore, basically a second overall pick prospect going to this draft, and he basically declined going to New York Jets. Don't blame him, honestly, but when you have that high expectations for yourself, you got to go into this next year with a mentality of, this is a win-win year. And I have to be the number 1 pick to where it's like, I have to justify why I stayed back in college. Don't get me wrong. Avoiding the Jets is already justifiable, but for Dante Moore's sake, in the media, being past the top 15 pick would be a disappointment, and not getting to at least the semifinals, in my opinion, would be very disappointing for this Oregon roster.
I definitely think that. I think this Oregon is my Natty favorite team to go to the Natty. If I had to say,
Mm-hmm.
they're my runner up. If I had to say, my champion, I will preach about it when it comes to that time. But it's
Yeah, I think I have my champion in the book too.
yeah, of who's gonna win it next year. But
Yeah,
I think Oregon, they have to make the Natty. There's no excuses. It's like with Penn State this year. Penn State had no excuses, but guess what? They choked it because of injuries and the situation. They brought everyone back. That's what I'm afraid with Oregon. Is what if the
yeah.
situation is the same thing? Everyone's coming back a little bit, and you have a terrible start, and it just falls on your face, and you're flat on earth, and you went all in, and you suck again, pretty much.
You could say that about Notre Dame too. I mean,
That too.
you were mentioning earlier how they're bringing back basically everyone, so this is kind of their year. But the thing is, or Notre Dame is able to make their schedule
Mm-hmm.
compared to. I understand that a lot of SEC fans kind of argue that the Big Ten is Mickey Mouse, but you have some games in the Big Ten to where like the weather is cold and frigid. The fans are going nuts, and you play teams like obviously Ohio State, playing the big house like Michigan, or even play teams like now like Indiana and Oregon. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Big Ten's getting pretty competitive now. As to a lot of these guys could potentially see. I see it. conference that's a little weaker than the SEC. I will say it is weaker than the SEC. And they'll be able to fight for a national championship more. But right now, yeah, if Oregon doesn't make it back to the semifinals at least and probably have to win it, then I'd say this year is a disappointment for them.
Yes, in their schedule, they got Oklahoma State next year at Stillwater. They got USC at USC.
Yeah.
UCLA, they can come out of nowhere with their team with Nico, depending with that situation.
Yep.
Ohio State, you got Ohio State at the big. You're going to Ohio State, the shoe. Then you got Michigan coming into out in Oregon, and then you got Washington at the end of the year, and those games are always tight. So they got a schedule. I gotta say, they got a schedule. It's not a doozy, if I gotta say.
But they also have the number 2 pick in the 2026 NFL draft on their team, so they should be able to get it done.
They should. This team is like with the high praise of it. It gives you the Ohio State vibes of that. Trying to get that winning format of bringing everyone in. You got the best, arguably the best defensive player in transfer portal. I think Corey Preacher is the underrated safety. He's literally a Cooper Jean player, if I got to say, but honestly, a better athlete, if I have to say that, from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then
was he the guy who played?
What?
Was he the guy who played both sides of the ball?
Yes, he was their special teams. He can play both sides. He can play anywhere.
Okay.
He's mainly safety though.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So now, who's your other team you gotta say other than Oregon?
Texas. I think they bounce back. Yeah.
I think Texas will bounce back. I think Texas. This has to be their year. Everyone is coming. You got Cam Coleman. You got Hollywood. You got a lot of players on that defense that coming back too. So this team, if you do not win the SEC championship or at least make it, is a disappointing year, and you gotta fire Steve. That Steve Sark era is done. Arch Manning has to be a Heisman candidate. He was great at the end of the year. Don't get me wrong. He has Texas has to be back in the Final Four. No excuses. If I had to say that.
Yeah, the thing about that too is that they're basically buying the championship, and if they don't get it done this year, it's kind of like you put all that money into this organization, and you put all this money into these guys, and they didn't get it done. So what do you do there? Do you fire your coach? And I feel like it's kind of time to be pointing fingers at him.
It is. He has to get it done. You have this talented roster. The same with James Franklin. James Franklin had the talented roster. They just didn't get it done. And that started 3-0, fell apart after the Oregon game, fell apart the UCLA game. It's just, you can't have that, if I say. So, going to one of these other teams, have to say, Georgia. Do you think Georgia, what is going on with the curve? Have they been figured out, or is it just they're unlucky playing in the Sugar Bowl, you think? Because they can't win in that damn Sugar Bowl right now.
I feel like, I don't know, dude. That defense this year was phenomenal, and I don't know how they weren't able to get it done.
And the offense was phenomenal. The whole team. It was point blank, and just Trinidad Chambliss had to be heroic. And if Chambliss comes back next year, Ole Miss should be dangerous, I gotta say. They got Lacey and Chambliss coming back in that backfield, and I think that'll be a deadly team for next season if the whole situation does.
Yeah. I think Kirby's been figured out a little bit. We've seen a lot of film from these Alabama games where how does Alabama able to beat them so many times, and it's just basic plays. It's just not being too aggressive, and it's blitz. So I feel like Georgia obviously is still a powerhouse team, and they're still in title contentions year in and year out, but I don't think they'll be able to reach that form of where they were before the NIL started, to where it's this team is running college football. So I don't think next year will be the best year for Georgia. They'll still be good, possibly on the bridge of playoffs, but honestly, I feel like it's way too competitive right now to where teams are kind of super teams. And the same thing goes for Alabama too. They've lost a lot of talent going into the draft, and some guys are leaving, and obviously they bring in a lot of players and they bring in a lot of talent, but it's just where are we putting our money at now compared to where they were putting their money, say, 3 years ago when the NIL just started?
I get you with that. I do. I don't know. We'll definitely see how the SEC is gonna work. It's a couple of environments. I think it goes. I think the top three teams I gotta say is Texas and Georgia, um, and and maybe LSU. We'll see how Sam Levitt does at that SEC level. We'll definitely see. I mean, they got a team. They got a damn team. I gotta say, they brought everyone back. They got K Durham. I don't know if Brown's back, and then you just got Jordan Sean, the top best lineman in the country, and you took Perkins from Ole Miss. So you got a team. So LSU, they got to get the job done. It's time to get Baton Rouge back in the playoffs. Can they get it done? I don't know if they can, but we'll see. Those are
You
my
know who's a
top three.
sneaky team also in the SEC?
Who?
Vanderbilt. They got Jared Curtis coming in. You know, they brought a lot of stuff into Nashville. Their coach is a really good coach. I feel like they could be sneaky good next year too.
Do we trust a true freshman coming in? Do we trust a true freshman to do that?
Was he 5-star plus? I mean,
5 yards. He was a 5-star. 5-star plus, yeah.
we haven't seen a 5-star quarterback kind of dominate as a freshman since Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, Trevor took a while. Like, Trevor wasn't the starter. And then in that A&M game, he came in after Kelly Bryant was not really good, and then they won that game, pretty much. So it's a roller coaster, if I have to say. We really do got to see how this team goes. How it works. Switching the conferences, let's go to ACC. I mean, of course, I think our hot team is Miami. I think Miami should be the favorite to win it unless they choke, because the ACC kills each other no matter what. Another team is going to be very underrated. I think Virginia Tech. Getting James Franklin, I don't know if it's going to be a quick rebuild, like how Kurt Snatty is, but like I think they're going to be very underrated, if I have to say, with their team.
Not ridiculous. I think Georgia Tech could also be really good.
Georgia Tech is another one. They are losing Hans Kings. That is a big loss right there, because that was their offense, I have to say. He was their team.
They brought in Baby Mendoza. So we'll see.
They did bring an Alberto. We'll see how Alberto does over there, bringing his winning format. Unless it's just Fernando, who's the quarterback in the family, and he's just there. So yeah.
I feel like. Do you trust CJ Bailey with NC State? You think they could be sneaky good? Or?
Dude, I've been it's CJ Bailey. His frame, like 6'4", 6'5". Bro has a canyon of arm, dual threat ability. It just can't NC State's a team around them be competitive. I trust CJ Bailey, like, offensively. Like, I trust the offense. I just don't know how their defense is concerning me. That's the biggest question for me.
Yeah. I'm so surprised he didn't transfer.
I am too, because he's really good. Like, he's very underrated, if I have to say. Because that offense, they can put points on the board. It's not a difficult part with them. It's just their defense. Can they get stops? That's my biggest thing.
That, and can CJ Bailey not force turnovers?
But the thing is, he was a sophomore last year. We forget he's a sophomore heading into his junior year, so he can be in a draft eligibility this year if he really wants to. It's really up to his concern, if I have to say.
Yeah, you know who his wide receiver was? I never knew this. Who his wide receiver was in high school?
Who?
I just recently found out. It was Jeremiah Smith.
I knew he was playing for a good quarterback. Yes, I remember the highlights between them two. I knew he had a great quarterback, and Jeremiah was really good. And they were both tall players, because Jeremiah was like 6'3", and then you had CJ at 6'5", over 6'4".
Yeah.
Giant players. I remember that.
Yeah, I just found that out. I was like, dang, I never knew that.
I was getting confused. I thought Bryce Underwood was with Jeremiah Smith, but then now I'm like, okay, now it makes sense. Okay.
Who else? I think will get out of the? I don't think Duke will be good. Clemson, we'll see. Bill Belichick.
Do we think in Unk? Do we believe in the Unk guy, the guy who got hoed out of the Hall of Fame? This year. Do we believe in that?
He could come in pissed and be like, nah, I don't think so though.
It's a tough format. I mean, Gio Lopez enters the transfer portal, so I don't know who their quarterback is going to be next year. I don't know if it's going to be Bryce Baker unless he transferred. I don't know too much about their situation. We'll definitely look into that with their situation. So, yeah. And then the other conferences, the Big Ten, we already talked about that. The Big 12. Who do you think is going to be that team that's very underrated that can be our, the 5th seed? Our group of 5 team making the playoffs, to say. It's very early, I know that.
G5?
I got to say What was it? Let me see. G5.
I mean, yeah, honestly, I was looking at this and I kind of agree with what you said about what's their names? Oregon State. They could be sneaky because
Oregon State. I said Oklahoma State. I said Oklahoma
Oklahoma
State.
State. My bad.
Oregon State, they could be decent than the Pac-12. I mean, the
Predators.
Pac-12 is coming back a little bit, it's taking its time. Um, Maybe a sneaky team. I mean, Alonzo left from James Madison. Maybe San Diego State, maybe, or the Aztecs. Maybe could be good.
Let me think.
Um,
Um,
UNT could be very underrated with their quarterback, Christian Emerson or something like that, junior. He's a very hot name. He won the state title for North Crowley, beating DeSoto a couple years ago. So
okay.
he could be very underrated too. We'll see how that works with that format. I don't know. It's random. It's always random who's that Group of 5 team. Um, Pretty much. I mean, Memphis could be that team. And then they're getting Charles Huff. Charles Huff has been a winning coach in the Group of 5, and now he's moving up into the American Conference. So we'll see how he does in that conference.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it to see like who I kind of like, but
Who do you think is gonna have the biggest drop off? That had the made the playoffs, they're gonna have the biggest fall off, and they won't make it back. Like it was just a 1 year. Who?
Tulane.
Okay. I'm talking about the top tier teams. I gotta say, other than those.
Let me go. Let me go look up. Let me go look up the.
Do you think the Aggies? The Aggies. Oh,
You know, I'm
talk
gonna
about
say
them.
two teams. One of them, I mean, yeah, obviously Texas A&M, but I like Marcel Reed, so I feel like they could be back. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to say the Alabama Crimson Tide because the
Ooh, the
QB
Tide.
situation currently right now is kind of a just toss up. And we'll have to see how they kind of do without Jeremy Bernard, with how some of these guys that they've had, Caden Proctor, obviously. Will Ryan Williams be able to kind of step up as the true alpha wide receiver like he was kind of freshman year?
Mm-hmm.
I could. I've been preaching this to a lot of people. I've been saying that he could have the Devontae Smith type of like, not the type of year he had, but kind of like the type of player type that we saw with Devontae Smith. I just feel like our offensive coordinator right now is so bad
Did he get
that
fired, or is he still there?
he's still there, but
Oh,
get fired. The problem is with Kalen DeBoer too. He kind of came into a program that just had basically the god of college football at the helm, and these fans basically expect a national championship right at the bat. And yes, he did go to the national championship year prior with Washington, but it takes time to kind of develop a team and kind of get your connections back up, especially with like how big the SEC is and where these guys really want to go. And he doesn't really have the connections that like a lot of Southern teams have. He's kind of got the connections more of the Northern prospects, if that makes sense,
I
compared to
get
like
you with
Lane
that.
Kiffin or Kirby Smart, who have the kind of tools to be able to persuade guys to come south.
I'm trying to think. What if the Bama situation is like a New England situation? They take a while to get it format, pretty much. Take a while, and they bounce back like a crazy comeback after 2 years. I don't know. It's different college football and NFL, I've got to say, but like that's kind of like the situation they're in after losing a great coach, and they're trying to find themselves back in that category, if I have to say right now. And they got to find
Yeah,
an identity with the run game, I've got to say. The run game.
yeah, the run game and the offensive line. We just fired our offensive line coach, so
Mm-hmm.
we're also bringing in a five Isaiah or something Crowell. I think his name might be Isaiah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Crowell is a 5-star running back that's coming in. We've brought a lot of talent in through the portal,
Mm-hmm.
and we've kind of built the O line basically back from the crumbles it recently was. So we'll have to see how kind of that works out, especially with a first year quarterback. If we start Keelan Russell or even Austin Mack, these guys are going into their first year as starters. And I will say I will defend Ty Simpson because this was his first year starting, and he was putting up basically Heisman numbers until he had an injury that was kind
Right.
of like disclosed from the public, really not announced or talked about. And we saw the production go down, but if Ty Simpson started maybe 2 years, could be number one overall pick. We just have to see. I just think Alabama needs the quarterback to like not develop under dudes. We just need to throw him into the pit of hell, basically to start. And if he struggles, he struggles. But you have to kind of pick him back up and then continue to let him start and see him develop. I feel like that's how a lot of quarterbacks are playing now.
And I say if it doesn't work, if the development doesn't work, I think you got to go after a transfer portal quarterback then.
Yeah.
After that. You got to go with that because you got to. If it's Ty Simpson, okay, you worked it out, okay, but you got a 5-star quarterback. You got Austin Mack. They're developing. If the development tree does not work, you got to go after these hot names in the transfer portal. It's no more bullshit. I got to say with that. So, do you have any final thoughts before we close out, Ty, about any top topics we got to talk about ahead of college football? Because we will not talk about college football in a hot minute.
Who's your Heisman favorite?
Oh, the Heisman favorite, Arch. Arch has no excuses. He has the weapons for it, and he has to get it done, if I have to say. Or Bryce, or Jeremiah Smith, unless Jeremiah Smith has a crazy year next year.
I like that.
What about you?
I gotta go with Dante Moore.
Dante Moore, man.
Yes, dude. You're basically saying foregoing. I don't want to be the second overall pick in this draft. I want to throw $50 million out of the window, and I want to come back. And if you don't win a Heisman, it's not going to be the most disappointing thing. But if you aren't a top 5 pick, I'd say that's pretty disappointing.
Oh, definitely, especially this. This draft class is going to be very intense heading in 27. Mm-hmm. It is going to be a lot of hot names. You got Sellers, you got Arch, you got maybe Sane. Who else you got? Probably
this draft class is stacked.
So you gotta put your firsts. Who's you think is gonna go first? These quarterbacks. You think it's what? They're gonna be Arch?
I got 3 guys. I got Lenorse, I got Dante or Arch. I think Lenorse could also go number 1. I really do.
Lenorse, that's another thing we didn't talk about. South Carolina. South Carolina is bringing back pretty much their key players with Dylan Stewart and Lenore Sellers. I think it goes down to coaching. I think they're coaching. If they have so much talent, it just goes down their coaching ability. If I gotta say, because don't forget this team was up 30-3 against A&M, and they still choked that.
They were in a big game against Alabama too. So I mean, they're not.
They were in close games all year. They were all one score. It's just coaching, game playing. That's it. Clock management. Where's times right? When's to chew the clock out? When is it not to pass the ball? It's that situation, I got to say. Too many times they choked this year, I got to say. And they had big leads on these teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, enough of that. Thank you all for joining this episode of Donut Sports. This is our last video of college football, if I'm correct. We'll do a Super Bowl video, maybe likely upcoming week. Can't wait for that. But thank you all for joining us for this episode of Donut Sports.